Gen Z, Gen Z, what is up? Gen Z, what is up, man? My name is Saadiq Spears, and it is not a podcast. It is a show where we bring the most pertinent topics pertaining to Gen Z, whether that's within business, politics, or media. The idea is to help y'all be perceptive to what? Build perspective. Okay, listen, I know I'm scraggly. It's okay. I left my clippers in the city, but next week I'll be right. We have a crazy episode today. A little bit short. It's Halloween, so happy Halloween to y'all. And if you enjoyed the last episode, man, go ahead and like this episode just because you enjoyed last episode. You know, I had my man Jarrell on, the NYC Public Urban Planner, and the episode did very well, as well as, you know, it's going up on Instagram and TikToks and stuff like that. So I'm just excited for that. We have a crazy couple of topics to get to today. You know, government shutdowns on its day 30. They're saying that 42 million Americans will not be able to get assistance, but that just got blocked by a judge, so we'll get some more information on that. I'll speak to you about that as well. Amazon and UPS and other companies like CBS has done massive layoffs in the last couple of weeks, and or have announced it in their earnings reports, while stocks are hitting all-time highs. So my account is doing well, and those are in the market are doing pretty well, but regular Americans aren't, and I want to speak about that. Other than that, I think I don't even want to talk about the NBA RICO, because I don't think there's a point to talk about the NBA RICO. That's just kind of crazy. But yeah, okay, listen, let's get it started. First of all, I hope y'all weeks have been going pretty well. You know, go ahead and put that in the comments. And if you have any suggestions, topics that you want me to talk about, I definitely want to talk about what's been happening in Sudan and the red sand images that's been taken from satellites, which is just terrifying, literally terrifying. Anytime I think about that, it's just ridiculous. But let's start with stocks. So people ask me every day, you know, sometimes I'll be posting about my stock stuff. If you don't know, I've been investing since I was 16. You know, once I got to college, I started investing. Just instead of trading, I was just investing. I was trading and stuff since I was 16. Didn't do that well. But now, once I hit a threshold, I said $10,000 in my account. Now I'm willing to start trading again. $10,000 in stock, first of all, foundation, which I think is, I'm recommending that for everybody else. I think you should have $10,000 in stock account before you even think about trading, before you even think about crypto, before you even think about other stuff. Be careful and be safe. And the best way you could do that is just a foundational stock account. What I typically do is single name stocks, right? Apple, Microsoft, et cetera, et cetera. Stocks, when I say stocks are hitting all-time highs, that means the benchmark indices like the NASDAQ 100, which is the 100 tech stocks, and then the S&P 500, which is the 500 best stocks on the market. That means that those metrics are hitting all-time highs. So when I say stocks are hitting all-time highs, S&P 500 just hit an all-time high, which is insane. The reason why it's insane is because we are seeing a stark contrast between those that are in the market that are benefiting and their accounts are tripling, doubling, at least what? Even like going up by 20%, 25%, that's a lot. You know, the S&P 500 is supposed to give you 10 to 13% a year, right? But some stock accounts are doing 100 to 200%, 300%, 400%. And it's just a stark contrast between those Americans that are benefiting from it and those Americans that are not benefiting from it, which means that their money are just getting eaten up by inflation. You know, and I do come to terms that it takes money to make money. It takes a lot of money in order to make money. And it takes a lot of money to just get secure or feel secure in the market before you can start doing a little bit more riskier stuff, right? So that's why most people invest into mutual funds and those indices that I was talking about versus a single name like Apple or Microsoft that might have a lot more idiosyncratic risk. I feel very weird that markets are hitting all-time highs while I see Americans being pushed out of their homes or their healthcare premiums going up or SNAP assistance. We're arguing about SNAP assistance. The reason is because I'm seeing behind the veil. Anybody that's in the stock market right now, anybody that's in the stock market right now is understanding that this wealth gap is dividing and it's getting starker and starker. It's getting increasingly bigger. And the reason for that is because if you're not in the market, your money is getting eaten up. You're probably living paycheck to paycheck because you're not investing. And if you are in the market, man, your account is soaring. It's soaring. And the thing is, the people that are typically in the market are the people that know. If you're in the know, which is like those who are in business, those who are in finance, those who are typically not our color, not people of color, then we know what groups and what minority groups are going to be affected the worst. We know which groups are going to be disproportionately affected. We know what groups are going to benefit. Again, even if you're not a stock person and maybe you just have stock options with your company, who is that typically going to benefit more? Which is why I'm more worried about my communities. Yes, I'm happy that my stock account is going up. I'm happy that I've been investing to save myself, but that don't feel good. You know what I mean? Like, that don't feel good. And maybe I'm just different than most of the other people that's in the stock market that just happy and just go on. But man, I see more homeless people in my hometown. I see more homeless people in the city that are now coming up into my hometown, right? Like, I see the real effects that's happening day to day. So I can't just tell y'all, hey, get in the market. I am telling y'all get in the market, but as the same time I'm saying, hey, get in the market, I understand that the only reason that we're making so much money in this market is because people aren't. The only reason that it's the same thing with Kwame Ture with the students, man. Like, the only reason that black students are able to be students is because there's a lot of black people that aren't. And the same thing with the stock market. All right, like, of course, I want more people to get in, but I also would like so much more regulation to happen, because why are we about to go into quantitative easing, which means that the Fed is about to start buying securities and bonds from banks. Banks are going to take that money. They're going to loan out some more money, which means that borrowing is going to be way less expensive for other companies, spurring up the economy. But the banks are going to go take that money. They're going to go take that money, loan out to some more other people, collect money off of that, and go reinvest into stocks, bonds, and whatever. Which means is that the Fed is printing more money, washing it with the banks, and the banks are loaning it out, making money off of that, and going to reinvest into stocks, bonds, whatever, etc., and they're washing more money. So the only money that's getting added into the system is going into banks and big money, big corporations, while inflation is eating up the regular American. Like, that's sick to me. That's sick to me. I'm sorry that we're getting off. I'm sorry I'm getting deep quickly, but it's just because I'm seeing it happen. I want y'all to go look up a S&P 500 chart. I want you to go look up Amazon's chart, Apple's chart, look up AMD's chart. These are top companies. These are top 15 companies. NVIDIA's chart. Right? Like, yes, some of these companies are just dead profitable, right? Like, NVIDIA is just a profitable company. They are killing it, right? But you got to realize that a lot of this money that's being inputted into the system is getting washed through these banks, and that's why you're seeing the stock market inflate, right? Because when Fed funds come down, or when interest rates come down, which is what the Fed has been doing, they cut interest rates. When interest rates come down, money starts to move. Borrowing starts to come a little bit easier. Corporations are able to free up some more cash to go buy some more, to go loan some more, which causes the stock market to rise. And it causes inflation to rise. So the only people that's benefiting from all this money being printed in is big corporations, big money, Wall Street. And the people that are losing are everyday Americans that have no idea how to invest into a brokerage account, which is a lot of Americans, which is typically those Americans that might be on SNAP benefits, which is typically those Americans that might be on Medicaid that's getting their premiums skyrocketing. Which is why I mean that this wealth gap is widening, and it's continuously a transfer. That's what we're seeing right now. It's a huge transfer. And although the numbers are not going to show it today, it's going to show up. And what scares me is that this is all happening at the same time as DEI regulations are coming down, which means that there's no necessity for a corporation to have to look out for a minority group. We're going to talk about layoffs too. There's this one clip that I want to play. It was talking about CBS, because I want to illustrate a little bit what systematic racism can look like, and how does DEI come into play, right? So there's this one guy. Let me play a little bit of it. Trey Sherman, and he worked at CBS and he got laid off from CBS, and now he's talking about his experience being laid off from CBS.
In my meeting with the executive who told me I was getting laid off, I specifically asked him if it was a consideration for us to be relocated somewhere else within the company, and he said that we advocated to keep the show. We advocated to try to get you relocated somewhere, and we couldn't. Because I asked him, why are you the person who is making this decision or delivering the news that we're being laid off? And he said, oh, it could have been anyone. Only to later find out, because it wasn't until I went downstairs thinking that me and all of my colleagues had been laid off that I found out that it was only the people of color. So I went one by one to my white colleagues. Are you getting laid off? No. 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 So I went back up to his office and I told him, I think you lied to my face. And come to find out, it was not his decision to eliminate the show that I work for. But he did get to decide who got to stay. I told him, you said that you couldn't get us relocated, only to find out that you were able to get some people relocated, and they all happen to be white. Am I supposed to believe that that's coincidence? And he said, yes, I'm supposed to believe that's coincidence. I said, do you believe that's coincidence? He said, I do, because I chose to keep the people who I had worked with before.
Yes.
So mind you, not only is it not based on merit, it is
amazing. I'm glad that he said that. Listen, that is what modern day racism looks like. That is what institutional racism looks like. Let me put it out for y'all. Let me lay it out. Listen. Do I think that guy that fired him or laid him off is probably racist? On a day-to-day, do I think that he hates black people? Do I think that he hates people of color? Probably not. Probably not. But that's not how the system works, okay? People that are typically in positions of power get to choose who they work with, who comes in. Oh, what's the hiring looks like, right? Look at the keywords I'm saying. What's the hiring looks like, right? So when the layoffs come, and they say who's expendable, well, they're going to expend the people that probably don't connect with as much. They're probably going to expend the people that they require, not necessary. That are not necessary. But he's going to pick his buddies, and this is why it's important, right? Because it really roots a lot to tribalism, and sometimes we don't recognize that off rip, but that's why there's regulation put in place to be able to recognize it when you don't, or you don't see that implicit bias, right? So when a guy says, oh, I'm going to lay off these people, 5 people, and on paper, it probably doesn't look that crazy. I mean, on paper, it probably doesn't look, or in person, it probably doesn't look that crazy, but on paper, that's 5 people of color to the 10 people on the team, and you only laid off the 5 people of color. Well, he said, I wanted to keep the people that I've worked with before. Yes. That's because those are the people that you probably align with. And that's what I mean by when DEI is taken away, it makes sure DEI was supposed to protect instances like that, equal whatever opportunity. Because we know that if we were to allow this, or because they know that if they were to allow DEI to be eradicated completely, then a lot of these corporations would just slowly, surely rid out a lot of their minority representation. And that's simply because of tribalism and nepotism. Are y'all hearing me, man? Are y'all hearing me? It's simply because of tribalism and nepotism. When he says, I worked with the people beforehand, these are people that I might have went to boarding school with. These are people that, oh, you're from Connecticut? I'm from Connecticut. Oh, you went to that school? Yeah, I went to that school. Oh, you're part of that frat? Oh, yeah, I went to that part of that frat. But it just so happens that the people that are put in those positions of power, or the people that are in those positions of power, had power historically. Family had power on that Wall Street. Family had power in that building. You see what I'm saying? Or family went to that school beforehand. Which is why I mean that, like, I don't think this is I don't think this is the textbook racism that we often think when we call it institutional racism. It's not. It's not. It's just tribalism. And when you let tribalism happen without any regulation, then it starts to weed out the diversity in corporations or within spaces. Especially when the people in power often look or align in the same race, voting demographic. You see what I'm saying? Like that's how it happens. That's how institutional racism happens. So when layoffs like that happens, always pay attention. I hope he's able to sue or something like that, because that is a prime example of how it happens. A prime example. Now, I think this is a perfect segue to get into layoffs, because damn, man, we've seen many corporations in the last couple of weeks just announce massive layoffs. But I really want to focus on this Amazon one. Amazon just hit all-time highs again today. It shot up $30 today from last night because it just beat on earnings. So it's doing pretty well as a company, and they announced 30,000 corporate roles that are targeted to be laid off in the last week. 30,000 corporate roles. Okay. About 14,000 of it is explicitly announced for AWS, which is its cloud services, and Prime Video. Now, those are, AWS cloud computing is one of Amazon's biggest moneymakers, right? And a lot of the other corporate layoffs was in HR. I hope y'all hear me. So where you think that it might be placed into, where it's like robotics, automation, arms, and stuff like that, which we're going to talk about in UPS, no. This restructuring is simply AI. This restructuring is, all right, we hired a lot of people during COVID. We thought we're going to need a lot of people because, we're expanding. But instead, we actually don't. And the computer scientists, the engineers that we hired, say goodbye. Sorry to you comp sci people. Say goodbye. And HR, say goodbye. And Prime Video, say goodbye. Man, 30,000 roles, and that's all of AI. I want y'all to see, because the last layoffs that I was showing a couple of episodes ago, most of those layoffs was from federal work. Most of those layoffs was not AI driven. I think it was one of the 6 reasons, which was AI, for the massive layoffs that's been happening. But now, this is a prime signifier of AI starting to come in and actually take jobs. And to see it go into HR and then into computer science, AWS, its biggest moneymaker, I hope y'all see what's happening right now. This is happening in our face while Amazon's hitting all-time highs and they're cutting 30,000 people from their workforce. There's correlation between that. And from the forecasts that's coming probably into next year's guidance, into the year after's guidance, I wonder what it's going to look like. I wonder what this signifier from Amazon is going to spread it into other companies. Because, this happened in AWS, it's cloud computing services. Man, that's scary for every single company. Because every single huge company is tech-driven. NVIDIA, AMD, Amazon, Apple. If Amazon's doing this for cloud computing, then what are those companies going to be doing soon? Oracle? It's for computer science, man. Okay. UPS also has cut 48,000 jobs in 2025 as part of its biggest overhaul, facility closures, automation, buyouts. Reiterated in its earnings weeks, its rationale was $3.5 billion 2025 cost savings plan and a network consolidation. Man, these companies have dumped, I'm not talking about UPS specifically, these companies have dumped significant capital expenditures into AI. For the last couple of years, they've been saying that it's a bubble, it's not materializing, these companies haven't been able to profit off of it. Until you realize that they're not looking to profit, they're looking to cut costs. You see what I'm saying? They're not looking to go out and implement this X thing, implement this so their customers are able to have a better buying experience, and thus it's driving mad revenue. What they're trying to do is implement AI and cut half of their workforce. That's simple. That's how they're going to make their money off of this in their capital expenditures. That is the bubble. Now the question is just how are what are these companies' 25-year outlook when half of their consumer base can't afford anything? Like, it's crazy because people were talking about universal basic income a couple of years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, and now it's becoming an actual talking point, right? I think allegedly, I think Sam Altman was literally talking about a universal basic income, which is like, how is that? Imagine that. He does support that, actually. Yeah. Okay. I'm making sure that I wasn't giving y'all BS. He did say that. And it's saying that it's going to be supercharged by AI, and I just don't know where to go from that. We have an administration that is hell bent on not putting any regulation on this. You see the partnerships between Palantir, Nvidia. They're all in on it. Let me slow down. Happy Halloween to y'all. And if you don't celebrate if you don't celebrate Halloween, happy Hallelujah night to y'all. So listen, the government shutdown is on day 30. Day 30. It feels like I keep obviously these numbers keep going up, but it feels like I'm in here every week and I'm like, government shutdowns on day X. Like, this is crazy. And they're saying that 42 million of Americans might not get access to their assistance. It just came down that a federal judge has blocked it from Rhode Island, blocked the ability for Trump to block the usage of the emergency funds that we've had to use for SNAP. I'm gonna explain that one more time. So we have an emergency fund for SNAP just in case of this type of stuff, or emergency in general, $5 to $6 billion of emergency funds and emergency assistance in cases of situations like this. We also have a $23 billion fund for something else, but it's not directly for that. That's not the reasoning for, like, it's not for SNAP. But we have $23 billion in other discretionary funds, and then $5 to $6 billion for assistance in occurrences like this. Trump administration and the USDA put out a statement last week saying that they will be not using those funds, the $5 to $6 billion, to be able to pay for the SNAP. They said that we've run out of money, and that will not be used. Thankfully, a Rhode Island judge federally just passed it today, is that on Monday, I think Trump will have to answer to why you're not going to use those funds. And if he cannot answer to it, then he's going to have to use them. I believe the article's a little bit shakier on it as well, so I'm going to include those articles in the description as well. But from what it seems like, at least $5 to $6 billion will be allocated to SNAP for this November. What that means is, I believe $9 billion it costs per month to be able to cover it. So there's going to be like a $3 to $4 billion gap to cover. And whether or not discretionary funds of the $23 billion that I said before might be used, I think it'll be a lot harder for judges to block Trump from blocking that aid. So that $5 to $6 billion I think is already golden. I think a lot of people that's on SNAP and on EBT is going to be able to get access to that. But after that $5 to $6 billion runs out, I don't know what happens. And hopefully Congress has a solution to the government shutdown before that happens. Because, man, I can't even imagine. Like, I was on EBT for a big portion of my life. I was on EBT up until college. I was on EBT midway through college, and it put me in position to be able to start, like, saving. Literally. Like, some people think that, like, people are just, a lot of people think that EBT and SNAP is just people just offloading or freeloading off of mad social services and stuff like that. But sometimes you could use social services to be able to build a foundation to get up. And why not food being at that foundation at the very least? Like, if we're going to provide a social service, food should be the main social service before anything. And we're fighting about that. So it's just interesting. I saw this Stacey Abrams I guess like speech that she quoted from Joshua Discourse, and just talking about how before we were arguing on the pathways to get to the result. You know, I guess that's the dichotomy between conservative and liberal. But now we are arguing about the result. Like, we have fundamental disagreements in this country at the moment. And at this point, we can't just let bygones be bygones. Like, we have to talk about this. We have to engage about this. And I just don't know how. You know, I'm furthering conversations, you know, amongst people and my friends and myself. But I don't know how to build out of this. It feels like, even like where I see on like TikTok comments and YouTube comments, and like, geez, so much polarization. Like, even like somebody like a candidate like Zoran, right? Like, man, like, you would think that like a lot more people would be just on board for something fresh and new, especially post-Trump. But we can't even agree on some of the craziness that Trump has done, right? If we can agree that Trump taking out 30 plus people in the Caribbean, no trial, just straight executions, is not alarming, is not borderline war crimes, might be a war crime, then we don't even have a foundation to have a discourse on. And that Venezuela stuff is nuts, by the way. Like, not even just Venezuela, but Trinidad, like, that stuff is nuts. The more that I look into it, the more that I find about the Caribbean and our involvement in the Caribbean, there's just no substantiated evidence to why we need to be there and why we took out multiple boats and are arming up and putting nuclear capabilities next to the Caribbean. As in, like, we might go to war with Venezuela over drug cartels that Venezuela denounces and wants to work with the America to rid this, and yet we still can't get past it. But then again, you know, maybe I'm just being naive for looking past the Department of War. That's why they named it that, and I'm not going to stop calling it that. You know, that's why they named it that. Is because they're showing us what they want to do. They're showing us what country is being platformed. This is the new American status quo. And it's just scary because, I mean, you see like him with other leaders. Like, no leaders is even like rocking with dude no more. Before it was like, all right, he had Russia maybe in his back pocket. You know, he had a somewhat good relationship with China. But now you're seeing, even in meetings and stuff like that, he's not being just held to the same respect. So at this point, we're just going to we're going to have to create something new. We're going to have to create something with hope, you know. And I'm just happy that we have some type of players that's here, that's willing to fight, like Zoran. You know, like, damn, like, man, because hope is just hard to come by these days. It's crazy to think about, but hope is hard to come by these days. I look to my leaders that I watch, my news articles that I watch, and journalists that talk about Gaza, that talk about Sudan, that talk about Congo, and it's a lot of bleakness when we talk about these topics now. Last couple of things. I do want to talk a little bit to my college students, talk a little bit to my Gen Z people, you know, young people that are trying to figure it out. But I don't want people to feel like they just need to be sitting at home and waiting for a job. These jobs are not coming sometimes. So sometimes you got to create your own value. And at the moment right now, the market is saying test your value. Amazon with those 30,000 layoffs are saying test your value. How valuable are you? And you got to be real. You got to be real. If you're not making yourself invaluable to your employer, then you are at the expense of your employer. If you're not making yourself valuable to the market, you can't be mad at the market saying you're not worth nothing. You know, and the market is ever changing. I feel bad for all the computer science students that got told, hey, you want to make 300,000, you want to make 200,000 plus, you want to work in California, San Diego, and make good money and live a great life, travel all the time, work from home. Man, now the company's got you working 5 days in office, hoping that you don't come till they can fire you. It's time to create your own value. And a lot of that looks like trades, you know, services that you can do for other people. But sometimes that might just be going to the drawing board, that whiteboard, and saying, how can I make myself valuable to either an employer or the market? All the while investing. Because I don't want to just tell y'all to keep investing your money into the stock market. You ain't got no money. Well, you got to get the money first. I'm not going to lie. They say capital world. Capitalism. You need capital. So if you need to go run up a check working at a warehouse or whatever, don't be too shy from doing something like that. You know, if you need to go run up a check working at McDonald's, don't be too shy from doing something like that if that's going to pay your bills, or if that's going to give you the ability to thrive in the future. I also think, like, you know, I don't know, maybe it's just my friends and stuff like that too, but we in our consumerist bags, you know, holidays are coming up, stuff like that, man. Holidays is canceled in my mind. It is a work season. I'm not comfortable right now, and I'm not struggling, but I'm not comfortable right now. So, man, when it comes to Halloween, man, I bought my mask today. Yes, I bought my mask today. When it comes to Thanksgiving and Christmas, man, I'm not thinking of Thanksgiving and Christmas until Thanksgiving and Christmas comes. I'm in work mode. The world is in recession mode, which means it's the best time to build. It is. It's also the worst time to be stagnant, because if you're stagnant, you are significantly losing. That's called inflation. It's called inflation, which means you gotta growth. You gotta have growth. And with that, that's it for me, man. I've talked your heads off a little bit too much. I already put my resources in the description, of course, for my investment advice and stuff like that. This is not investment advice. None of this was investment advice. You know, this is Saadiq advice, homie advice. And I love y'all. So listen, Gen Z, you already know what's up. Like, comment, subscribe, share this video, of course. Share the last video if you liked it. Perspective is growing. You know, this channel is growing. I'm excited for the future. I'm excited. I'm hopeful for the future, because if I'm like this and Jarrell was like this last week, and all the comments that was coming and the good engagement that was coming from it, that means we have a lot of good people within our generation, a lot of good people in the world that's looking for a better world, looking for a sharper world. And a lot of us are future thinking, future minded. And that gives me solace. So listen, Gen Z, I will see y'all next week. And it's not a podcast, man. It is a show.